Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Journey Podcast. Today, I want to talk about a controversial topic, and that is Adderall in business. Adderall as a business owner, Adderall in entrepreneurship. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I've had a few students in the past ask me my experience taking Adderall, if other coaches take Adderall. And what I will say is that I do know a couple business owners that do take Adderall, but it's not as common as you would think. And I personally have taken it in the past, and I want to share just my open experience with it. Now, I'm not going to give advice, but I do think that this would be helpful for people who feel like they might be struggling with focusing and getting stuff done, and people who feel like they might have trouble with ADHD. It might shed some light and some insight on, what my experience was like, and it might kind of make a few light bulbs go off for you in your journey as well. And like I mentioned, I'm not going to give any advice. I'm just going to simply share my experience and tell you guys how it went for me, and kind of share with you how I use it sparingly to this day. So let's go ahead and go to the beginning. So, not sure if you guys knew this, but I was actually diagnosed with ADHD in seventh grade. I personally believe that my parents were looking for something, as just they were kind of looking to label me. I didn't have great grades. I wasn't paying attention in class. I never did my homework. And if you looked at my notebooks, you would just see drawings and scribbles, and like I was just like daydreaming the entire time. Well, in hindsight, looking back, I could just tell that, like, it wasn't that like I was stupid or anything. It was just that I didn't pay attention because I didn't really care what I was listening or what I was listening to. And I was paying attention to other things. I was daydreaming about like skateboarding, daydreaming about like playing music, daydreaming about like, visualizing things that I wanted to accomplish in life when I grew up. And so, I never paid attention to what was going on in class because I was completely somewhere else in my head. Not that that place in my head was a bad thing or worse off than what was going on in class. It's just that I didn't really care what was going on in class. And so, my parents got me diagnosed with ADHD, and they put me on a subscription of, I forget what it was. It was like Vyvanse. I mean, I took so many different things. I didn't take Ritalin, but I took Vyvanse, I took Strattera, I took Adderall, I took, so many different types of prescriptions to kind of figure out which was going to be the best for me. And the reason why I did was because every single time that I would take medication, my personality would start to shift. I would get really irritable. I wasn't very social. I, instead of playing with my friends, I became very quiet and introverted. And it really, really stunted my socialization skills. And because I was stunted in my socialization skills, it was hard for me, to build confidence on the school grounds with the kids. And so that really put me into an even darker place, because now I was prescribed, Adderall and like ADHD medication. And sure, my grades went up, but I was so miserable. I was like seriously, seriously so miserable because all I really cared about was, talking to girls and playing with my friends. And I couldn't do either of those things because I was so zombified from all the medication I was taking, that it was like I was trapped inside of my mind trying to like break free, but I couldn't do it. And so I was like just like watching myself, you know, drop the ball so many times. And that kind of got to me mentally because, like I mentioned, it kind of led into a spiral of lack of confidence. And that lack of confidence eventually led into a depression. And as much as I tried to plead about my parents, all they saw was good grades. They didn't see my lack of socialization. They didn't see my mood changing. They didn't see that, like, the personal struggles emotionally I was going through by being on this medication. So I started to resent ADHD medication. I really, really hated it because my parents would always be like, "Did you take your pill? Did you take your pill? Did you take your pill?" And I'd be like, "Mom, I don't want to take this fucking pill. Like, it's literally ruining my life. Like, I do not want to take this medication." And, they would use their parental, like, the power parents have, you're grounded, blah, blah, blah. And what ended up happening is, like, anytime I came off of the medication, I feel like I would have like a compensation of mood. So like I was extra crazy. I was extra extroverted. I was extra hyper. I was like crazy, way more than I ever was before or off the medication. And so it kind of became a negative reinforcement that, when I was off the pill, I was crazy and, I guess unlikable almost because I was just like obnoxious. But then, so they can tell when I was off the pill. And so they would make me stay on the pill. And so I was just kind of stuck in this thing. And like I mentioned, I absolutely hated the medication. It was horrible, but I got, I got good schoolwork. I did good in school. Like, my medication started to soar again. Let's skip ahead. So, I'm continuing to take the medication. It's now in high school, and I am like full blown depressed, like so depressed. Like I'm not even kidding, guys. I would leave my classroom and cry in the bathroom stall because I fucking was so depressed. Like that's how bad it was. And I would do it a couple times a day. And so eventually I just hit a breaking point to where I told my parents, I'm like, look, I hate this. Like I was never suicidal, but like I was depressed, and I was like, I need to go speak to a doctor. I need to go talk to somebody because I don't feel good. I don't feel okay. And so, and honestly, I would say it became mostly from the medication because I was just so zombified. My emotions were just like numbed, that I didn't feel myself ever. And so I went to a doctor, was diagnosed with depression. So now I had ADHD and depression. I was on medication for depression. And again, we're just like experimenting with these medications. 6 months went by and I'm still miserable. I'm not hanging out with my friends. I'm not socializing with my friends. I'm ostracizing myself. And so this negative feedback loop again starts happening. And it wasn't until I reached a breaking point where I was like, you know what? Screw all of this junk. I'm taking this into my own hands. And so that's around the time where I started lifting weights. I just started building more confidence in myself, started building myself up. And around the time I was 16 years old, I just stopped taking medication. I didn't give a shit about what my parents were saying. Like my mental health and my socialization was just so much more important to me than ever succeeding in grades. And, it's funny is because I stopped the medication and then I started doing poorly in school again. But what ended up happening is I had to, instead of relying on these medications, I really had to build new skills in myself to be able to be successful in the society that, I was growing up in. And so I started lifting weights. My mood got better. I started building more confidence. And I became happier again. Right. And so I learned that in order to pull me out of a depression, there were certain things that I needed to have in my life in order for me to be, in that prime state. I needed to have a good amount of sunlight. I needed to have socialization with friends. I needed to feel safe. I also needed to take care of my body, go for walks, understand my mood and emotions and how to kind of bring myself back to center, and like practicing meditation, practicing like being present and stuff like that. And so I learned how to pull myself out of that depression, just by, reading books, listening to YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff. And, I just needed to change the way that I did things in order to pull myself out. But let's talk about the focus now. So I applied that same thing with my focus. What ended up happening was I stopped taking the medication. I didn't do as well in school. I applied to a couple of colleges. They didn't let me in. I went to a community college and I literally flunked out of the community college because I was not paying attention whatsoever. And I do think that if I had medication, I probably would have done well. But at the same time, I didn't really care because where my attention was going was something I was extremely, extremely passionate about. I was paying attention to business. I was starting my business. I was getting certified. And so I learned that when I enjoy something, I have hyperfixation. I have no problem focusing on something for like hours at a time when it's something that I cared about. And so I learned is how to manage my focus and direct it towards things I actually really did care about. And that was like learning about business. It was learning about, how to make money online. It was learning about training clients. And when it came to those things, I like really excelled at learning those things. And so I learned, it wasn't a focus problem. It wasn't me being dumb. It was just, I needed to understand what I was passionate about and really cater to those passions. And then, so I'm starting to get a little bit deeper into my entrepreneur journey. And I like really had to learn how to focus and do monumental tasks. Like, for example, right now I'm completely rebuilding my course, which is a huge undertaking. I've written a book, which was a massive undertaking. I've also built multiple courses as well, which is a big undertaking. And so I needed to learn how to tackle big projects while also having the attention span to stay on those projects for hours at a time. And the best way I learned how to do that is to break things down into bite-sized chunks and do like segments. So like I have this muscle now, like in my brain, to where I can tell when my muscle is getting tired and when my muscle is getting fatigued. Like when you start training and working out in the gym and you start pushing your muscles, you can tell when your muscle is getting tired and it's time to rest. And so instead of trying to push through those blocks with medication, I give into those blocks and give myself 15, 20 minutes break to scroll on TikTok a little bit or go for a walk or, kind of freshen up in between my quote unquote work sets. And then I can go in for another 30 minutes to an hour focusing. And when I start to notice that my attention's starting to, shift and I'm starting to lose focus, I actually give into those blocks. And so I'm able to do little sprints of work while also making progress on a more consistent basis, just because I understand how my brain works. And so what I've learned is that, and this is just my personal opinion, right? I think that a lot of people will view medication or quote unquote think they have ADHD because it's kind of trendy, or they're looking for a secret weapon, when in reality we just need to learn how to focus and learn how to pay attention better. I truly and honestly believe that no one taught us how to focus. No one taught us how to block out work. No one taught us how to, get stuff done and pay attention. Like, it's not a skill that we learned how to do, but it is a skill that we can get better at. And so for myself, I was able to pull myself out of depression and pull myself out of, being medicated on Adderall and relying on medication to get work done, simply by understanding how my workflow works, understanding how my brain works, and also understanding how I can get myself to pay attention and focus on, important tasks for a certain amount of time. The other thing too, I was going to say is I do know a lot of people who do go on medication because they quote unquote can't focus, when they haven't exactly put in the work to learn how to focus on their own. There was a quote that resonated with me that says that if you need medication to get any work done, it's a sign you shouldn't be doing that work. If you can't sit down and passionately get the work that you want to get done, then you shouldn't be doing that work. And, you can say that like, oh, and honestly, I'll give you an example of what just happened. I actually sat down and I had tried to film a new lesson for the course for about 30 minutes, and I just could not get myself to do it. Like, it just wasn't happening. And so I said, you know what? My body's just not, or my brain's just not on the same side of the table as me. That's totally fine. I'll get up again and I'll try tomorrow. And so I came on here to talk about this podcast. I'll get that conversation lesson done tomorrow. But it's just me understanding how my brain works and understanding how to like program my workflow. Right. So does Adderall help? It does help. I have seen people use it to get big projects done, but there are side effects to it. And I don't think it's like a Band-Aid to something that needs surgery. Right. We can get better results just by understanding who we are and how we work than, needing medication to get anything done. And plus too, the people that I know that are on medication all want to come off it. They're all like, it's almost like a crutch, right? They all want to come off of it because, it's like not solving the root issue. Now I do take Adderall every now and then, maybe like once or twice a year. The last time I took Adderall was when I was writing my book, and it was like the last 3 weeks of the book. And I just did not want to, like, I didn't want to do it, but like there's 3 weeks left. So I was like, you know what? I'll take an Adderall like every Sunday. So once a week I took one and I just busted it out just to get it done, just to get it across the finish line. But the majority of the book was written without it. And this is coming from a person who was diagnosed with ADHD. And so I do think that there are other remedies out there that you can, explore and look into. I think the biggest thing is just learning how to focus and learning how to master yourself when it comes to executing work, boring work, essentially. But that's what I have for you guys today. Like I mentioned, there's no advice in there. This is just my own personal experience, my own personal beliefs. I personally think that you can do work just fine. You just have to find something you're extremely passionate in. You have to understand your workflow. How does your body work? How does your mind work? And how can you, get the best results out of that workflow? So with that being said, guys, catch you in the next episode. Peace.